Now from the University of Okoboji, it's Okoboji Broadcast with Jeff Thee.
Welcome to Okoboji Broadcast here on Women in Action Thursday. I'm Jeff Thee. With me today is Jezzika McKee, and she is here with me today. First of all, thanks for joining me.
I'm glad to be here.
Appreciate you.
I appreciate you doing this for me.
Well, you know what? This is for a lot of people, Jezzika. We're going to tell your story and your son, Samyuel.
Yes.
And a lot of things. First of all, I don't think, Jezzika, a lot of people realize that November is Premature Baby Month.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we think of a lot of things with, October's Breast Cancer Awareness. Sometimes November, they talk about No Shave November. And you educated me. I did not know that November was Premature Baby Month.
And what the crazy thing about it is loads of people do. Light It Up America, they do that for Premature Awareness Month.
Yeah.
November 17th is Premature Awareness Day.
Okay, all right.
So they light it up, and it's a beautiful sight. People post all over the country what their city is doing.
Yeah.
A lot of us parents that don't live in a big city, we changed the light bulb outside of our door to purple. So.
And purple is the color.
Yes, and you don't realize how hard it is to find a purple light bulb here.
Yeah. Being a Vikings fan, you would think I would have a bunch of them, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But a very serious story here, because when Samyuel, well, go ahead and tell your story, Jezzika, because it started before his birth, obviously.
Yes. So I have a daughter, and her pregnancy went as normal as can be. I had cravings I had never had before, like Reese's peanut butter cups.
Oh, yeah.
I hated those. And I loved them when I was pregnant.
For 9 months, they were your best friend.
They were, every day. And hot wings. I chalk that up to her sassiness nowadays, even though I know it's from me.
I was going to say, it may not just be the wings.
Yeah. But she had the most normal pregnancy you could have.
Right.
I had high blood pressure at the very end, but otherwise healthy. And actually, I did forget to tell you this before. A week after Thanksgiving Day, I was at Kmart in shopping.
Right.
My mom was working the Black Friday sale, and after Thanksgiving, because it was Thanksgiving Day.
Right.
And I started bleeding.
Oh.
I had preeclampsia after. Pretty much, they just didn't make sure all of my placenta was removed.
Okay.
After the birth.
Oh, okay.
So that I had a minor DNC. They cleaned it out. We're all good there. Go on a year and was getting ready to be put on birth control. I actually have a condition called iron deficiency anemia.
Okay.
It will be a thing for the rest of my life, most likely.
Right.
I am on medication now. And I went in because I started feeling, tired and stuff. And usually when I get pregnant, I don't have that issue.
Okay.
I found out I was pregnant with Sam.
Okay.
That was when I knew it was going to be a hard pregnancy, but I didn't know if he was going to make it.
Okay.
At that time, I didn't even know it was Sam.
Yeah, right.
I'm thinking okay, this is going to be a long road because iron deficiency anemia causes more blood flow than normal.
Okay.
Clotting, stuff like that. So the road was rocky. We went on a few months and everything was golden. I didn't have any issues until one day I started clotting.
Okay.
And I had miscarried before I had Anemia.
So was that your first thought that
Yes.
possibly I'm miscarrying?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I made an appointment immediately. But they did an ultrasound and there was nothing wrong.
Okay.
Months go on, weeks I should say.
Mm-hmm.
I am at the local fair. At this time I was living in Cherokee.
Okay.
That's where my mom's from.
Okay.
And we were at the local fair and walking around doing nothing strenuous or anything.
Right.
seeing all the animals, having a good time.
Sure.
And I get home and I'm standing in my mom's kitchen. And I knew something wasn't right.
Okay.
I went to the bathroom and I started bleeding.
Okay. Yeah.
So at this point, I'm going to the emergency room. Thankfully, it was only a block away from my mom's house.
Thank goodness. Yes.
So my husband drove because it's faster.
Yeah.
We get to the ER and they take me upstairs to the maternity ward. My doctor comes in. He's like, I'm going to watch you overnight. I thought, okay, things could go up from here.
Right.
And a half hour later, he comes back in. He goes, I'm sending you to Omaha. And that's when I knew
I bet
things
your
were
adrenaline
right.
started
Yes.
rushing then, yeah.
You don't know the outcome. At this point, this is when I learned that preterm birth was a thing.
Yeah.
I had never knew before.
Well, yeah, you and I were chatting about this before we got going, and just the fact that, all you knew about pregnancies with, your mom,
Mm-hmm.
woman you called grandmother and so forth, but you didn't know that a premature was a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know if doctors do it so that way they don't scare a mother, but I feel like this is something that should be talked about that could happen if there were any complications.
Right.
No mother should run scared at the sight of something that's not normal in a pregnancy.
Well, yes, and that's so true. They check for other things, and looking down the line and so forth and making sure of the health throughout. But yes, I recall with my children, I don't recall this being discussed.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not. The doctor, when I got to Omaha, the doctor came in and he said, we have to keep him in there for 1 more week. And
this is at 24 weeks.
Yes.
Okay.
Or, no, I was 23 weeks
You were
pregnant when
right.
I went into...
Okay, yes.
I was
okay.
in labor at this point.
Okay.
They did not know where the blood was coming from. And I get asked the same question all the time because other moms have been in this position. If it was preeclampsia. And pretty much the placenta abrupts before birth.
Okay.
And most babies don't make it.
Okay.
And normally it's normal for mothers of twins to have this. But I was 1 in 10.
Okay.
Because 1 in 10 experience miscarriage or early pregnancy.
Early, right.
So we discussed the plan, and so they were going to. We did steroids, all kinds of things. I was still having clotting, still bleeding.
Right.
It wasn't done, but they wanted to stop the contractions that I was having.
Right. Yeah.
Um.
Stop from the process of giving birth.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Yes. Because a day earlier is a day too early.
Right.
So anyway, he goes, we're gonna try to keep him in for a week.
Okay.
A week later, I'm having lunch with my husband, my daughter, a couple of old friends, and I start gushing blood while my daughter's sitting on my lap.
Oh.
My husband's running down the hallway, yelling, my wife needs a doctor, and this nurse, and I thank her now because she was just doing her job. She comes in, she's got a monitor, she does all those things, and it's not a fast process.
Right.
It is long, and they have to get you to a room, do an epidural because they're about to cut your stomach open instead of a vaginal birth.
Right.
I got blessed to try having him vaginally. Most mothers don't get that chance.
Mm-hmm.
Well, his shoulder, his head got stuck.
Okay.
So I ended up having an emergency C-section.
Okay.
And at this point, they didn't know the outcome. both doctors, mine and the doctor who was going to be taking care of Sam, both looked at me and my husband and said that we may not make it. And that's nothing you want to hear. That's nothing you want to remember at a birth like that.
And when they said we may not make it, wasn't just talking about the baby.
It was talking about me too.
Right.
And so now I hardly tell anyone this part of the story because you're on drugs. You're you're on steroids, you're on pain medication.
Right.
They want to make this as painless as possible.
Yeah.
I remember a butterfly, a monarch butterfly to be exact, being in the window of the hospital room we were in. And my husband had a fantastic relationship with his grandmother.
Okay.
We don't talk a lot about it, but like they watched Three Stooges together, they hung out together, after school or before school even. And we tell the kids that she's a monarch butterfly, so anytime we see one, that's who they think of.
Right.
They never got to meet her, and I really wish they did. I really wish I did too.
Yeah.
But I know she's watching over them.
Well, and there she was in the window.
She was in the window, and I didn't get to hold Sam right after. They stitched me back up. I went to the room. I had to rest and stuff. I was trying to walk out of the room the first night because I wanted to go see.
Well, sure you did.
And actually, my family took me in a wheelchair. My mom ended up being there. Her best friend, which is an aunt to me, she was there. My daughter was still there. So, and at this time, they don't allow kids because it was almost winter time. They don't.
Right.
Kids have a lot of germs.
Yeah.
But she got to go in and see where he was, and he was in this what looked like a box, a fish tank even, with a blue light over it.
What did he weigh?
Well, he started out at 1 pound 12 ounces.
Okay.
This blue light was because he got sick right after he was born. He had a 15% chance of survival, and I like to think of that number as my lucky number because he made that.
Yeah.
He had tons of illnesses while being in the NICU, and it's
I'm sure the immune system just was not matured to the point where it could ward things off.
No. There was so much going on. Nurses were coming in the room, making sure he was okay, and alarms everywhere, because he wasn't the only baby in there.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
And every day was a new challenge for him. There was testing. They have to look at their eyes, see how far their eyes are developed. They have to make sure that they develop completely.
Yeah.
And the worst thing about it was he couldn't eat right away.
Sure.
Now, most babies, you go right ahead and you feed them.
Right.
Well, when a body that tiny isn't developed, they have to feed them a different way. So he's got needles in his head, his hands, his feet.
For parents, that's just got to be traumatizing,
right.
Jezzika.
And we're talking about needles that are big enough to go into our arms that are through their little body.
Yes.
So we're talking months of that oxygen, transitioning to eating. I got the chance to try to breastfeed. He did not take to that.
Right.
And actually what was going on is he would work his little body so hard, the next day he would sleep the entire day. So he was on a feeding tube.
Yeah.
We're talking like 30 weeks. They were able to start feeding tubes.
Yeah.
And that's an iffy estimate.
Okay.
Because every baby is different.
Yeah, absolutely.
So he had feeding tube in his nose for quite a while, and then he had to be intubated a lot.
Yeah.
It seemed like every couple weeks they were trying and nothing. So we're gonna fast forward here to almost the end.
Okay.
We're talking like he was supposed to be born November 13th. And most NICU babies are able to go home on their due date or close to it.
Right.
We're getting a month past that, and he's still on oxygen and a feeding tube.
Yeah.
We kept trying and kept trying and kept trying. You know, they tried everything they could.
Well, sure, absolutely.
We were going to Omaha Methodist Women's,
Okay.
and it's a very small. It looks bigger than it is. Their NICU is very small.
Okay.
It's a women's hospital, so we're taking this big hospital for women who have breast cancer, who are in early labor,
Right.
and many other
many other
medical
women's
issues.
cases. Yeah.
And we're taking a small part of it and we put a NICU in it. Maybe 100 babies at a time, and probably not even that much.
Yeah.
There's probably less than that.
Right.
That they can take care of. Because of it being so small, they do not go past a G tube. And what a G tube is a feeding tube that goes directly into your stomach.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's what Sam needed by the end.
All right.
And at this point, he still had oxygen and he needed the feeding tube. Well, because their feeding tube does not, or they don't have the capability to do a G tube. And this was then.
Right.
We're talking 6 years later. They probably have that.
Right.
now.
Yeah. Technology marches on, but at that time.
Right.
Right.
So they had to transfer us to a different hospital, and I will not be naming this hospital because for us it was rocky, but doesn't mean for the next parent
Right.
it isn't.
Right.
So we moved to this next hospital. We get there and they're like, okay, we're gonna do this feeding tube surgery, but I'm not sending you home with oxygen and a feeding tube. So it's really bad, but they pretty much gave him the ability to live with a feeding tube
Right.
over making sure his lungs were healed like they should be.
Okay.
And granted, as a premature baby, he may never be able to breathe like a normal person. They have scarring on their lungs because their lungs don't fully develop.
Sure.
Stuff like that.
Okay.
But I will never forget that. They gave him the ability to breathe. Or they gave him the ability to eat
Right.
over
Right.
breathing.
Okay.
And what's crazy is I've seen tons of families come home with their babies that have feeding tubes and oxygen.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what the situation was with my own child, and at that point I just wanted him home, so I agreed.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, how do you second guess, or can I get a second opinion? You're depending on
Yeah,
to give you the answers. You just want to get your son home.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So a week later, they did the surgery. A week after the surgery, we were sent home. 4 days before Christmas. I will never forget that Christmas present. It's probably the best Christmas present
I
in the
have
world.
no doubt that
you know.
it was. It was a total of how many days was he in then?
149 days between the two hospitals. Granted, the second hospital was much shorter, but the number is what made it.
Yeah.
That's half a year for a family to not be with their child, and there's some families who spend way more than that.
Right. Did you spend a lot of time nearby, or did you have to come home and work and go down, or how did you do that?
So
Jessica?
at this time, we were living in Cherokee, and his
Okay.
hospital is in Omaha. So unfortunately, at that time, I didn't have a license. We didn't have a working car.
Okay.
My mother-in-law had to work, but her car wasn't much better than
Right.
my husband's, and my mom had to work. And my mom was raising he's now 15. He was, 10 at the time.
Right.
it was very hard. We spent weeks away from him sometimes. We had our daughter at home, and at this time she was two. And so she needed us at home. Also, my husband had to work. I was taking work off so that way I could prepare to have him home. And so there was a lot of commuting, and I felt bad because I wasn't there enough. But then when I was away from home, I felt bad because I wasn't there for my daughter.
Well, and I can't, Jezzika, relate to what you went through. I can only describe what I've seen, and that was when our youngest was born, and it was a high bilirubin count, and so she was jaundiced. We ended up having to go to Sioux Falls. Stayed in the Ronald McDonald house, which was a blessing.
Yes.
And we were in and out of there within a week, but saw parents that had a son, and parents that had a hole in his heart, and they were there for weeks, and they had to go, and I can't remember where they lived, but they'd come on weekends and have to leave their child, and I remember feeling helpless for them, for their helplessness. So it when I think of yours and your families, that it's tough to imagine, tough to fathom.
And it's hard because you want the nurses to be with you for their whole lives, but we're talking, hundreds of kids they see all the time. Yeah. Hundreds of babies. So they can't be there for one child and not be for the other child.
But when you're not there, you're depending on them to do their thing.
That's the thing. There's this wondrous blessing of volunteers.
Yes.
I don't know what it's like with the whole COVID situation going on right now, but these volunteers were able to come read, and they'd leave notes on how he was doing for the day, and those are the people that really, really helped us. Yeah. Because one of the main things a premature baby needs is love and stability. Yeah. Like, they need a person always there. Yeah. Whether holding them, reading to them.
That voice, the warmth, the touch.
Yes. Yeah, right. Yes. That was one of the best things. And I hear all the time people who want to volunteer to do that. I'm like, do it. You don't understand how amazing that is.
I think those people automatically get angel's wings.
Yeah. And what is it now? We're almost to Christmas, so Santa's on their side.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they're on that good list.
Yeah, they are definitely at the top.
Thank God for them. Thank God for them. Yes, indeed. Yeah. So you get Samyuel home.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, so we get Samyuel home, and we got the Christmas tree. I stayed at my mom's because the first night I didn't know what to expect. We're talking a feeding tube. I have to monitor his, sats every so often. Yep. And what sats are: your oxygen, your heart rate, your pulse, things like that. Those things are completely and 100% important for them. Well, we get through Christmas. Christmas is great. Yeah. Right before New Year's, Sam gets sick. And that's when the real battle started. Yeah. We were under the impression he was healthy. We weren't told about the lungs. We weren't told. And at this time, we were just starting with the feeding tube, so we didn't know how things like that would react.
So this all came as kind of a surprise then.
Yes. Oh, Sam got really sick. Yeah. He ended up at the hospital needing oxygen. He was taken to Omaha, to the hospital there.
We're getting a little help from our puppy here, so go ahead.
So we all this was new and scary. Yeah. Sam kept throwing up, things like that. Yeah. Here's where the problem lied. When he went to the hospital, they adjusted his feeding. We were sent home a week later. Okay. And this was happening monthly. And I'm talking like we'd get through a month, and then bam, he's sick again. Right.
So you're having to go back down there again.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Over and over again.
Oh.
And this happened for 2 years. We moved to Spirit Lake. Amazing. We came across a phenomenal doctor. He's Sam's, guys. Stop calling. His name is Dr. Meating.
He's my physician. So,
yeah. So don't call him all the time.
I'm fine.
And actually, because of him, Sam is thriving.
Oh.
The first time he saw Sam, he looked at me and he goes, "I know nothing. But you know what I want in a doctor? A doctor who's willing to learn."
Yeah.
So before Dr. Meating, we had CPS called on us. Sam was still throwing up.
Yep.
We didn't know what was going on. We were just over the drama. So we went to Dr. Meating. And at this time, it was new for him. So, we got referred to a GI in Sioux Falls and stuff like that. At this point, we were going to Rivera Children's.
Okay.
It's a very small children's hospital, and I give props to all children's hospitals because they are amazing. They do great work.
Yeah.
But the doctor we were seeing told me I was a bad mom and it was my fault. Sam was sick. At that point, I was done. I didn't know what to do.
Right.
Luckily, my sister-in-law was there. We got transferred to Sanford Children's, and here's where Rivera Children's made a big mistake, in my opinion. They sent Sam home, or not home, but to Sanford Children's in our vehicle with an IV. And his insurance would have paid for an ambulance.
Oh, okay.
Sam was sick, so he should have been taken via ambulance, not in a vehicle.
Right.
Then we get to Sanford Children's, and we meet an amazing GI, and she's been doing great.
Yeah.
Her name is Dr. Adamek. I hope it's okay. I'm telling people their names, but don't call the doctors, please. They got to do their job. She has been working with us for the last, Sam's 6 now, so we're going on 4 years, I think.
Wow.
3 or 4?
Yeah.
I don't know. But anyway, since we've started going to Sanford, Sam has been in the hospital tremendously less. We found out he was lactose intolerant shortly after we started seeing her. That curbed the throwing up.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Well, then we found out he had reflux. Well, we had an idea of that, but the other hospital would not give us that. The hospital I'm not naming.
Yeah.
Would not give us that option. They wouldn't give him the medication for it. Sam was doing all the therapies he needed to do, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And we get, we're past this. Sam ends up with a simple ENT surgery. For most kids, it would be simple. Ear tubes placed, tonsils and adenoids removed.
Sure.
Here's the thing. He had to get so the inside of your nose has a little bit of extra skin. He was having his lung issues, so the nose was causing a lot of running, but it would also clog and stuff like that. So they took out the extra skin on his nose. This surgery ended him in the ICU for a week.
Oh my goodness.
And we're not talking like just oxygen and all that. We're talking he ended up needing to be sedated on 19 liters of oxygen.
Oh.
That is way too much for a child.
Yeah.
So during this time, we're learning everything. Sam didn't know how to walk. That was another thing. Sam was just learning how to walk. He had to use a walker.
Okay.
And I apologize to everybody for being all over the place.
Well, and how old was he at this point then, Jessica?
He was about 2
Okay.
when he learned how to walk.
Okay, was he crawling up to that point then?
Not really.
Okay.
He was learning to climb.
Okay. All right.
The thing with using a walker is you have tons of upper body strength.
Sure. Bully little guy.
But your legs aren't that great. So we just chalked it up that, he just needed to build some leg muscle.
Yeah.
He didn't learn to sit up right away. It took him a little longer than normal children.
Yeah.
But with premature birth, they have developmental delays. Most kids are on an IEP when they get to school.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing when they aren't. So we get through all, the ENT surgery. We're starting school,
Yeah.
He goes to Okoboji.
Yeah.
And I, as a mom with a special needs kid, it is hard to find a great school for your child.
Mm-hmm.
Parents have to fight for things from their schools.
Right.
I know parents who just don't want their kids to go to school because they don't want to deal with the extra added on stuff.
Right.
I know some people who homeschool and travel, and they love their life like that. Sure. And for me, I would love a life to travel. That was my dream in high school. I wanted to travel the world.
I think that's normal.
Yeah. But it's different. My mom, I'm from Connecticut,
mm-hmm.
so we're more on the city side of things.
Mm-hmm.
It's not small town living there. Everybody's, you got thousands of kids in one school.
Yeah.
I think my graduating class was actually crazy, but only just over 100 kids.
Yeah.
But the entire school was full of we're talking 30 kids a class.
Yeah.
That's the way it used to be.
Yeah.
I know with COVID things have changed. My daughter has 18 kids in her class.
It's about average.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So it's hard to find a good school.
Yeah.
So we started with at home stuff after we had moved here,
Mm-hmm.
with AEA, great program.
Right.
And they worked with him for a while. They got him to walk. They got him to climb stairs.
Yeah.
Little things that a 2-year-old should know how to do.
Right.
So each year is a new test because with Sam's lungs, so a little bit of that is his lungs should heal. As they grow, they should heal.
Right. With the scarring
Mm-hmm.
and so forth. Okay.
Yes. They have not. And they probably never will.
Okay.
So winter is our hardest year.
Sure.
Our hardest time of the year.
Yeah.
I hate winter.
Well, yeah.
If I would just never had winter, we'd be okay. Which is really hard for me because I used to love it.
Yeah.
When Sam started getting sick every year, it was a different disease every time.
Yeah.
And it would be the most ironic, never heard of it in the world.
Yeah.
Disease.
But he was susceptible.
Mm-hmm. Now we're talking about diseases that you'd hear in a nursing home, human metapneumovirus.
Okay.
It affects the whole GI system. You get the typical flu symptoms, but the only way to test it is through their poop.
Right.
And I had never heard of that before.
And why would you?
Yeah.
You're not working in a rest home or working with the elderly. Why would you hear about that?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
But he has had more illnesses than I have ever heard of in my life.
Yeah.
But,
Well, let me ask you, just real quick, you this. All right, then a pandemic hits. How much do you panic with COVID?
So quite honestly, I think I panicked less than most parents.
Okay.
I was scared because I don't know what COVID will do to him because he has been in the ICU. And now we're talking, pneumonia has put him in the ICU.
Okay.
And sedated. And each year it got worse. So we start at 8 liters of oxygen, and we start at 17 liters of oxygen. And I can't remember the last one, but it was the worst.
My goodness.
And with COVID, I'm scared because it's still there.
Yeah.
It's never gonna go away,
Yeah.
and we know that. And I as my choice, and I really hope none of my family or friends get mad at me for this, but I will be getting him vaccinated.
Yeah.
But it won't be. It'd be my choice. But not only that, his doctors want him vaccinated.
Oh.
Actually, we started this school year. I wasn't even supposed to send him to school.
Yeah.
And not because they are forcing me to keep him home, but because they don't want him to get sick.
Right.
But I am a busy mom. I work 2 jobs for the Try-Ons.
Yeah.
They're pretty amazing bosses.
Yes.
And then I own my own business on top of it.
Okay.
And then I have my 7-year-old daughter.
Yeah. She's a charmer, by the way.
She's quite the...
She stopped here yesterday, and she had pretty much had the house all under control before she left.
Yeah, she knew everything
Dog
already.
included. I mean, yeah. So, yeah. So what are the challenges ahead?
So just recently we got our official diagnosis. I've been waiting 6 years to hear that I was not wrong, that there was something causing my son to be different.
Yeah.
He can't ride a bike for more, than a couple miles.
Yeah.
Now, we're talking, you see kids riding up and down the street all day long.
Sure.
He wants to be that kid.
Well, of course he does.
Mm-hmm.
He with his peers, he wants to be
Right.
doing what they're doing. It's normal.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I know my daughter doesn't ride her bike very much, so yes, she still has the training wheels. But the neighbors, the kids on the street, they're riding without training wheels, and
Yeah.
they're the same age as him. He rides his bike all the time. And so things like that are hard for him. He can't jump on a trampoline
Yeah.
for more than a couple minutes.
Now, is he on oxygen all the time then?
So that's the nice thing, is he is
Okay.
not on oxygen
Okay.
right now. Oxygen we use when he is sick.
Okay.
Knock on wood.
Yeah.
Since he's been home since March 2020, he has not been sick.
Yeah.
We are getting through this year at school, but his peers at school and his teacher, they don't say a word about his mask at school. They've asked questions.
Oh, sure.
And he got to tell his class about why he has a feeding tube. And he couldn't wait to tell me that after school.
Oh, I bet.
And, another thing is his diagnosis is, I'm going to say this the best of my ability
Okay.
right now.
Okay, go, you bet.
He has left cerebellar apraxia.
Okay.
I think that's what it's called.
As far as I know, that's perfectly said.
Okay. Pretty much, you have the back of your brain, the cerebellum, and there's the left side and the right side.
Mhm.
His left side is underdeveloped.
Okay.
And it's a birth defect
Yeah.
in premature babies. And there is little to no research on it, so everybody could look it up in the world, and there's nothing.
Yeah.
You look it up, and there's everything about animals
Yeah.
in this condition, but not children.
For not children.
Mm-hmm.
So do we know what, with that not developing fully, what he's not getting?
So what the things he isn't getting is he's delayed. So now learning how to walk was normal until he was 2.
Okay.
He was on an IEP when he started school because they started him in a program that Okoboji has called developmental preschool.
Okay.
I had never heard of that before.
No.
And it is an amazing program. And head teacher Mrs. Lux, she did phenomenal. And
You seem
still does.
feel very fortunate with the Okoboji school system.
It's a blessing.
Yeah.
It really is. So I live in Spirit Lake. I commute every morning and afternoon to
Yeah.
go to take and get my children.
Right.
And I do it I do it for the 12 years that they have to be in
Yeah,
school.
that's right. You're in for the long haul.
I am.
Yeah, yeah.
I am. It's a fantastic program.
Yeah.
That was the nice thing about joining Okoboji was that program.
Yeah.
We did live in Milford once upon a time, but now we live in a beautiful. It's a small house, but it's beautiful.
Yeah.
We have a massive yard, and we live right on the bike trail.
Oh.
We walk the bike trail all the way to the spillway.
Yeah.
It just works.
How
for
nice
us.
is that?
It's amazing, and they with Okoboji, they are full on into Sam's care. I just left a note for Mr. Vonk yesterday about Sam's diagnosis, and I've never felt so comfortable in a school.
Oh.
It is hard to find a school that is invested in their special needs program.
Well, and for a parent to leave your child with special needs there,
right.
if you're not feeling comfortable, well, you're going to be a mess too, you and Dad, you know.
Yeah. We also have a wonderful program that helps me take care of Sam, helps Dad take care of Sam. So we go through a program called Universal Pediatrics.
Yeah.
They supply a nurse in the home. Unfortunately, Sam's insurance pays for it, and we can only have her 10 hours a day, 5 days a week.
Yeah.
But she goes to school with him.
Oh,
And
what a blessing,
Yeah.
Jessica. My goodness.
And we were truly blessed. When we first started this program, we're like, oh, it's going to take us forever to find a nurse. And you know what? For some parents, it is.
Yeah.
But our full-time nurse was this is when I believe there is a higher power
Yeah.
there.
Well, and I was just going to say that, Jessica. Look at where along this long path your family has been on, that things have been placed in front of you,
Yeah.
and what you've learned from it, and there's angels and a higher power looking out for you guys.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know Julie from Lakes Regional. She does what do they call where you get your vaccinations and stuff, your shots.
Oh, with public health?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Julie with public
yeah.
health got us set up with the nursing program, and our nurse was handpicked for us for sure. I truly believe. She's got her own medical history, which she could tell when she wants to.
Yes.
But she is a blessing for us, and so she goes to school with him, and they hang out all day long.
Yeah.
And she's like a second mom for him.
I'm sure.
Because she treats him like if he was her son. The only thing is, she has all boys.
Oh.
So her boys would be shocked at what he gets away with.
It's like almost like what a grandparent gets away with, It's like, yeah, I gave him candy. What about it?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh.
So, speaking of candy, Sam would not eat by mouth when he first got the G-tube.
Okay.
And while it was hard for him to learn, he eats everything in sight. Like, I really do believe that the GI doctor and the dietitian think I'm lying. She's fine.
She has found your sleeve, Molly.
She has.
Can you see I'm working? Anyway.
So, now, fast forward to now.
Yeah.
With this new diagnosis, there is no treatment for it. It is something that will be with him for the rest of his life.
Right.
And he started this school year not needing an IEP, which is phenomenal for a boy who has started with an IEP at school, did not go to school for a year and a half, and then came back. He doesn't need an IEP, and he may need one in the future. But for now, it's just that. And then his lung issues, he may have his feeding tube for the rest of his life. That is still in the unknown right now because his pulmonologist at Mayo Clinic, which is where we got our diagnosis, has been phenomenal with that and has done our own little bit of research that makes her believe that Sam's body is taking up all his calories per food. And trying to stay healthy, which is not a bad thing. We want him to be healthy.
Well, certainly.
We do not want him to be in the hospital this year. Knock on wood. Because I believe in that. I really do. I am very superstitious in all of this because we've had a lot of bad. Actually, when I first started working for the Tryons, I was working a part-time job and my husband wasn't working at all.
Right.
And at that point, we really needed to look for something.
So, you know, like we when we started out here, we wanted to just make this more of a conversation as far for people. You know, number one, that November is Premature Baby Awareness, but you know, we talk about a lot of things. We talk about cancer, we talk about Alzheimer's, many things.
Right.
But this is something that doesn't jump into the conversation a whole lot, and it was an opportunity to educate people on it.
I also want to educate family and friends of those moms who are having this happen, that need the help.
Yeah.
I hear constantly, well, I wasn't asked. We are not going to ask for help. I can tell you that right now, because we can rock the world. We've been through one of the worst things in history. And just, I think people need to be there. And people need to know that depression and PTSD are very real after this.
Very real.
I'm scared to get pregnant again.
And justifiably.
Yeah, my husband and I, we constantly talk about a third child, but I'm scared.
Yeah. and I don't think anybody in the world would blame you for those fears.
And I don't clean my house because I'm busy. Sam's care requires every 4-hour checks, or at least it used to be.
Right.
Now we do it before bed. He has medication he has to take at night.
Right.
He has a feeding tube he needs to, or a tube feeding that he will need at night.
Yeah.
We have to check to make sure he doesn't wet the bed. All different kinds of things. Now we have constant things like one of the symptoms of the diagnosis we just got is like kind of staring, like they stare off into. Those can be mistaken for absence seizures in some kids. So both these things, both premature birth and this new diagnosis, this left cerebellar Apraxia. We'll get it.
just look it up.
Just look it up.
Yeah.
Both things are not talked about.
Yeah.
And we know nothing on this diagnosis. Just what things can cause, like shaking, or like he can't write a full word right now.
Yeah.
Most kids in his class are. And where he's been compared to where he's at now, you would never think. You look at the kid and you think he was healthy.
Well, I can only imagine that when he was born, with all that, if you'd have seen where he was today, you'd probably, well, let's go for it. Because, but you didn't. You had no idea.
Yeah.
How scary.
It is very.
Yes.
And now you hear success stories of moms with premature babies that have another child and are okay.
Yeah.
But you also hear bad ones.
You can't help but but think what if.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's tons of support groups on Facebook now. You know, Facebook's the great wonders thing, you know. But, you know, you still get the drama. You still get everything else. So I think as a person, I think just having a support group is what you need.
Oh my goodness. And how helpful to reach out to someone like you, Jezzika, for someone that, you know, gets this similar news of, going through similar things, and there's a tendency to feel I am all alone.
Mm-hmm.
I am the only one in the world that's gone through this.
Oh, definitely.
And to be able to reach out to somebody like you, just for a mental embrace of, I've been there.
Right. And I think during this period of time right now with COVID going on, I really do think there's a lot of that everywhere. Like, we're talking about other things that people have too. Like, take dads, for instance. They're the last people think about when it comes to mental health.
Oh, yeah, because we're big, tough guys and we can take anything. We
Right.
don't cry. Yeah, I've heard this before.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
And I know it's all a sham.
And I get told, I don't know how you do it. To me.
Yeah.
But what about my husband?
Yeah.
Because he does it too. The late night feedings and the medication at nighttime.
Yeah.
It's not me.
Yeah. It's teamwork. It's family. It's family.
Yeah.
It's exactly what it is.
Well, and he
and when
also...
they say I can't believe, and then people say, I've heard this.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
If it was me, I don't think I could do it. You do it.
Yeah. And the thing is my husband is going through depression at this moment.
Yeah.
And he has ADHD also. Now, his dream, as far as I can remember, we've been together 10 years.
Yeah.
He wants to join the Air Force. You can't join the Air Force if you're depressed and on medication.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah. I feel like that's a huge thing that needs to be addressed.
For him to address, yeah.
Yeah. Well, even Dr. Meeting's amazing in helping him. He's on a great medication.
Yeah.
But he should be able to do his dreams regardless if he is depressed. I get it. You know, you don't want to hand a gun to someone who's having negative thoughts.
Yeah.
But if he can't do his dreams, what do you think's going to happen? Yeah. Another thing is the friends. He's met... We have, don't get me wrong, we have a couple people we hang out with.
Yeah.
We have a fellow mom and dad that we hang out with when we can. They're just as busy as we are. They got 3 instead of 2. And their youngest was just born.
Yeah.
So, and we hang out with them when we can.
Sure.
With COVID, it's been harder. I've given up sometimes, just saying, forget it. But now that it's winter time, it's scarier.
Oh, yeah.
We used to do dinners and watch The Masked Singer, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm scared. With my husband, he's met more friends working at Arnold's Park than he has in the history of friends.
Yeah.
It's very hard for him to make friends. Yeah. But for the last few weeks, we started going back to church.
Yeah.
We had stopped going to church. I'm not from here, so I don't know the churches. Now, I have to say I don't like the Catholic churches, and it's just because
not every church is for everybody.
Right.
Yeah.
I grew up in a non-denominational church.
Yeah.
Everybody came. Poor, and even poorer, you know.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we did the Christmas dinners. I went to the Salvation Army, and a lot of people that's a church? So support is one thing a parent needs, regardless if it's mom or dad.
Yep.
And they need alone time, just the 2 of them.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Actually, before COVID, Riley and I would always go to the movies. I hated going to the movies. I would do anything to go to the movies.
Oh my goodness! Yeah.
So, as a mom with a medically challenged child,
Right.
be another mom's support.
Yeah.
Another dad.
And sometimes, you know, if you see a child doing something that's out of your norm, put yourself in somebody else's shoes, and you know, maybe it's not a child acting out or just being different. Sometimes they've had other challenges, and just be accepting.
Yes. And
pretty simple stuff, really.
Right, and we talk about we should be accepting of everybody when, you know, we're talking on the news or just in general, you know, all the...
Don't you think if this world just took a chill pill, we'd all be a little better off?
Oh my gosh!
That's a whole different conversation.
This world needs a chill pill.
Or get a hobby. Just go get a hobby, everybody.
Right.
So.
Right.
But again, it is Premature Baby Awareness Month coming up here in the month of November.
Right.
And what's the day again?
November 17th.
Okay.
And it's actually more well known than we think. Just we don't talk about it enough.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. It's not in the fact that we need to light up everything purple, because we do.
But purple is a nice color. Right?
Yeah. It's Sam's nurse favorite color, so we'll go with it.
That's all right then. But let's talk about it. I mean,
right.
Everybody out there, let's talk about this.
We need to make it part of the conversation.
Yeah.
Doctors need to make it part of the conversation.
Yeah.
Therapists need to make it part of this conversation.
Yeah. Well, and Jezzika, I have to say, you know, like I said, the name of this segment is Women of Action. And by you being here with me and discussing it, I'm sure you do with friends and colleagues and everything, but that's making something happen. That's getting the conversation out there. So I appreciate you coming in here with me and telling me your story and Samyuel's story and your family story.
I appreciate being here. I mean, like I said, I had done this once before, actually twice before. The first time went as great as I could hope. I was in the newspaper. We had Sam in the newspaper. I was talking on the phone with the doctor at the same time in the newspaper. And then when we got to doing it on the news, I met with Jezzika from KTIV, and she was amazing. Yeah. I loved her. Well, last year we did it with their sister station, and I had 2 words total in that whole segment. Well,
that's the beauty of the way I get to do things. if I get talkative, I can just leave it in there. And so the 2 of us together, we managed, just about an hour.
Well, and the 2 words they highlighted were the 15% chance. No. And while that is 15 is not my favorite number, that does not highlight what we need to talk about.
Yeah.
It's not about how much of a survival he had. It's about making it known.
Yeah.
We want to make everything else known. Let's do this too.
Yeah. Jezzika, thank you for coming in here with me. I just appreciate it so much, and like I say, I got to meet your lovely daughter, and I just got a kick out of her. So you make sure when Halloween comes, you come around our door, and we'll have some extra candy around.
All right, deal.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. My guest has been Jezzika McKee, and we're talking about Premature Baby Awareness Month in November. I want to thank Jezzika for joining me here today. And as always, we thank you here on Women of Action on Thursdays, watching us right here on Okoboji Broadcast. Okoboji Broadcast from the studios at historic Arnold's Park Amusement Park is brought to you in part by the headquarters of the University of Okoboji is at the Three Sons, open Monday through Saturday 10 to 5 and Sunday from 10 to 4. The Scott Troutman State Farm Agency in Spirit Lake. Quest Wealth Management, a financial advisory practice of Ameriprise Financial Services. Advisor Jan Spielman, AJ Spielman, and Erica Wachholz. Ducky's Marine and Motorsports Repair in Spirit Lake. Bank Midwest, dream big, plan wisely, live well.
Lakes Regional Healthcare and Avera partner, Ruthven Locker at the Lake, where carnivores are welcome on Hill Avenue in Spirit Lake. Beck Engineering in Spirit Lake. Be Radiant Laser Skin Studio in the Okoboji Plaza in Okoboji.